everybody. My name is Mariano, and I'm an award-winning cartoonist and author. And yes, I am from Fairlawn, and my favorite library is, guess, the Fairlawn Public Library. Yes, so I am thrilled to be here with you today for Fairlawn Library's Heroes versus Villains. And today we're going to be talking about comics, we're going to be talking about cartooning, we're going to be talking about drawing, and mainly we're going to be having fun, because that's what it all comes down to. I want to make sure that you have fun drawing, you have fun creating. Alright, and don't worry about if you don't feel like you're the greatest artist. You don't have to be the greatest artist, you just have to have fun. You just have to grab yourself a piece of paper, maybe 2 or 3, grab a whole stack of paper, alright? Get yourself a pencil, alright? Pencil with an eraser, because we're going to make mistakes, and that's good. That's good to make mistakes. You always grow, right? So pencil and paper, and while you get that, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. Like I said, I'm a cartoonist and author. Here's a selection of some of the books that I have created. This one's a really fun one. Claire lost her bear at the World's Fair. And you can tell what it's about just from the title, right? It's about a little girl that loses her favorite stuffed bear at the 1964 World's Fair. And so all throughout the book, you follow along the adventure of Claire searching for her bear, and you also see Benny Bear's story as well. And all throughout it, there's some fun facts about the 1964 World's Fair, which is quite the inspiring event indeed. Another fun one that I'll just pick real quick is Puddleton Farm. Ewing, what are you doing? And it's about a little sheep with a giant imagination, much like myself, and probably you out there. We all have big imaginations, right? And so it's about Ewing and his big imagination and all the farm friends who just don't understand how Ewing likes to play. And so the readers will read along, and they'll try to figure out just exactly what Ewing is doing. And another new one that I created. This one was created with my son and wife, and it's the Far Out Firehouse. And it's just a really zany adventure featuring talking fire trucks and funny dogs and I don't want to tell you too much, but it's definitely a fun read, and it was so much fun to create as well. And then on the opposite end of it, instead of being something super fun, I wanted to try and challenge myself, because as an artist, I think it's good to challenge yourself to do different things. And so working again with my wife, same as several of the other books, this one was called Mundane, and it takes mundane, boring moments that happen every day, and I just wanted to just draw about it. And so it turns out to be a pretty funny book, and a pretty it was a fun challenge to just take something that happens every day and put it into a comic strip, into a book form. Alright, so that's just a little bit about me. You can read more and find more. You can find my books on Amazon or barnesandnoble.com. And all the information about me and my work you can find at marianobros.com. Okay, so now I do hope you went and you got yourself some paper and some pencils. Alright, because like I said before, you don't have to be the greatest artist in the world, all right? I think we all love to create, and I think we all love to draw, but there comes a point in our life where we just don't believe in ourselves anymore. I don't know what happens, but at some point we don't think ourselves being a good artist. So just to break the ice here, we're gonna draw something. And using this method where I believe that if you can write the alphabet, you can draw. And it doesn't even have to be the entire alphabet. It's only going to be a certain few letters that we're going to use just as this warm-up exercise. So you ready? Do you know your alphabet? I'm sure you do, right? All right. So we are going to start with the letter M. All right. and just on a nice fresh sheet of paper. I'm going to use marker here, but you use your pencil, and we're just going to do the letter M, capital M. All right, and what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing some letters and a few strokes, because I believe it's all in how your hand is already trained to make these lines when you're creating the alphabet. And so using these same lines that you've been using as you've been writing letters, you're essentially drawing. All right, so you're essentially drawing letters if you think about it that way. So we just drew the letter M. Now just draw a line coming out this way and a line coming out this way. Then I want you to draw a big letter U. Just a big letter U. All right. From there, I want we're going to draw a U again, but it's going to be upside down. So that was still the letter U, but instead of doing it this way, you're just doing it this way. How many times have you written a U before, right? So you have drawn before. Now we're just going to do 2 dots. Can anyone guess what we're drawing right now? I'm sure they're good guesses. All right. Now you can change it up if you want. You can do maybe a letter L or a letter V or another letter U. To change it up, I guess I'll do a letter L. All right, very good. And then I guess you can tell by now this is going to be a face, right? We see that this is going to be somebody's face, right? So now for the mouth, can you guess what letter we're going to use for the mouth? We're going to do a D, all right? But a D laying on its belly, all right? So here's a D. Pretend that's the belly, and it's laying on its belly, so. Right? And from here, you're going to just do 1 line across. And then again, we're going to do that upside down letter U. La. Give it a tongue, right? Give him a tongue. But can't hear, so let's do a letter C and then a backwards C. All right, you just drew me when I was 10 years old. So excellent job. And that was using just straight lines, right? And 2 dots, and everything else was basically letters, stuff that your hand and your mind is used to doing. All right, so think about that as we progress. This is another method that I'm going to develop further. We're going to be putting it into another book in the future, but I just wanted to just let you know that yes, you can draw. You are an artist. If you love to draw, you are an artist. Okay, so now let's get your thinking caps on. All right, and I want you to grab another sheet of paper. All right, and now on this page, I'm going to do it here as well. We're going to do 4 different columns like that. Alright, so you're just going to do 4 different columns, and we're going to do a list. We're going to do a list, I guess 4 lists. Your first list is going to be jobs. Your second list is going to be animals. Alright, third list will be things. And the 4th list will be emotions. So this is what your list should look like. Jobs, animals, things, and emotions. All right, and now I want you to just list some things. Add anything to any of the lists, okay? take some time. I'm going to do it here as well. I'm going to start writing some jobs, some animals, some things, and some emotions. And as you are thinking about the different items to add to your list, I want you to think about jobs, right? Think about jobs that you wish you had, or think about jobs that you want to do someday, or think about jobs that maybe your parents might have, or an uncle or an aunt they might have. Think about jobs that you would never want to do. And these are some good things to list. And I've done this list at several different schools, so I'm always remembering the ones that always come up. If you're unsure if it is a job, like I just wrote skydiver, I guess I'm pretty sure that is a profession. I'm sure that is a profession. Write that down as well. Animals, same thing. Think of animals that you like. Think of animals that you might be scared of. Animals that may make good pets. Or maybe animals that will not make good pets. Alright, and then as you're thinking about things, I know that's a very just broad topic, and that is exactly it. It could be anything. So when I mean that, it could be trees, or pizza, or food, that could be in there. Emotions, think about things that you felt before, right? We all have been happy, of course. Sad, those are always the two popular ones, happy or sad. And also think about personality traits. Let's add that in there too. That'd be interesting. Some personality traits. You know? Someone funny. All right. Give you a few more moments just to write out everything that you want to write. Okay. And I'm going to share with you the list I have come up with. Got a few different things up here. Emotions, I know everyone always says happy, sad, angry, someone could be funny, someone could be sneaky. Some jobs I came up with, everyone always says artist, skydiver, waiter, a wrestler. Animals, shark, skunks, walrus, spider, a hawk. Things, like I said, could be anything. Trees, pizza, ice cream, chair, tank. All right, so now what do you think we're going to do with all this? So we have a list, and we have another pencil and paper that we're going to be creating something with, right? So what do you think we're going to do with all these items? We're going to combine them. This is a character creating workshop, right? And that's what we're going to do. We're going to create a character. So what I want you to do is you're going to take something from each column and create a character. Right. Okay, take this one down. All right, so go ahead and get started on your own artwork there, and you're going to create a character, some kind of maybe animal that does a job. You know, another thing you could always add. Always remember this stuff is like a robot. You know, we can also add more jobs as you're creating. If you're in the house and with other friends or family that's doing this with you, maybe compare lists, and you guys can pick and choose off each other's lists and see what you can create together. All right. So now let's see. This is gonna be a tough one. So, as an artist, I have to think. I'm looking at the different selections here, and I'm leaning towards like a skunk, but a skydiver would be interesting too. And you guys should be drawing right now. Doing the same thing, thinking out loud, thinking what you want to make. It's always amazing when I do this with kids. They just go right to it and they just start drawing right away. And I wish I could be that way again. I think maybe sometimes overthinking's not good for an artist. All right. I think I got what I'm doing. Yeah, I think I know what I'm gonna do. We'll have to look up an animal because sometimes I like to draw from. Okay, should be interesting. Sometimes I can draw from my head, but a lot of times for animals I just like to just look it up real quick. So a quick Google search. All right. And again, I'm going right to marker just so you guys can see me draw, because it'd be tough to see pencil over here. But please use pencil, and if you make mistakes and erase it, okay? So now as you guys draw, just have fun with it. Like I said, just have fun. Maybe when you're done, you can share it with the Fair Lawn Public Library. Maybe tag them, email it to them, and they can email it to me. I would love to see all these different art pieces. Oh, that'd be great. I always love seeing all the kids' artwork. Now this is a tough one because I'm drawing an animal, but I drew a helmet on them, so it's going to be tough to see what animal it is. Now sometimes your first piece, let's see, maybe I'll keep doing it. Right? Sometimes your first go might not look the best, so you just add little things to it. Can you guys tell what I'm doing yet? skydiving skunk. A skydiving skunk. Maybe draw the airplane up here. It's always tough to draw an airplane from this perspective because you figure, I don't know, the skunk's got to be below it, right? Some clouds up there. Not too bad. Not too bad. All right, you gotta. Oh, let's add a little added bonus there. Maybe some ice cream. Swirly ice cream, maybe. There you go. So maybe he's a skydiving skunk that loves ice cream and maybe does different jumps. Oh, maybe the ice cream companies pay him to jump out of the airplane and eat their ice cream and then rate it as he's falling down to the ground. Maybe that's it. You know, and this is how it happens. I'm not saying this is the $1 million idea, but this is how people come up with different ideas. Just, you know, bouncing ideas around, combining a bunch of ideas together, and maybe, you know, this is what they come up with. All right. Now, can you think of any characters that may have been created this way, where we just take a bunch of items off a list and combine them? Because actually, one of my favorite properties was made just this way, and it took place back in the 1980s, early 80s. It was two aspiring artists. They were just sitting around, just doodling, eating pizza. And they thought about, you know, let's create a cool comic. Let's create the next big thing. And so at the time, in the 80s, Teen Titans were very popular. And also the X-Men. And so they said, all right, you know, let's do something with teenagers. Let's definitely do something with mutants, because that's what the X-Men were. A lot of movies in the 80s featured ninjas, so ninjas were very popular as well. So, all right, teenagers, mutants, and ninjas. Cool. Let's combine these three things. And then as a joke, they threw in an animal. Can you guess what animal they threw in there? Turtles. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were done almost the same way, by coming up with a list first, combining them, and then creating those very iconic characters now, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Another fun show that I always enjoyed was Avatar: The Last Airbender, and they did this a lot with the world that the Avatar lived in. And they combined a bunch of animals together to create new animals. So they had, remember, platypus bear was one, and remember there was a duck with a turtle shell. So they did a lot of the same thing, where they mash up two animals to create a new animal. And think about Pokemon. Pokemon does something very similar as well. Think about it. They'll take maybe a hamster and a rabbit and electricity, and you get Pikachu. You know, you take Squirtle, right? Turtle that shoots water. They just combine a bunch of different ideas and they create something new. And so that's what we did here. We created a interesting character just using your list, right? So I would love to see what everyone created. What kind of character did you create? You know, do you have a story for this character? I know this skunk here, he's a skydiving skunk, and I just came up with his idea where he was hired by an ice cream company to jump out of the airplane, taste their ice cream, and rate it. And I guess he's filmed this whole time. So I guess he goes down with a drone or something, and the drone films him. So now we have a character. Now, this is the Fairlawn Library heroes versus villains, right? So maybe this is the hero of our story. You know, in stories, heroes and villains don't always have to be superheroes and supervillains. There can be many different bad guys and good guys, right? But now when we're creating characters and we're creating a hero and a villain, what do we have to do? So if this, we're going to make him our hero. So now what should be a villain? Think about the villains and heroes, all right? Let's think about one that I always like to do is, let's say you have this guy here. You have this happy little guy here. Can you tell who this is? I don't know if you guys can see that small, but it's Mario. So I'll put up a picture of Mario. All right, so it's Super Mario, right? So we all know Super Mario, right? So who is the villain of Super Mario? He's the hero. Who's the villain? I'm not Googling. I know the answer. I'm just Googling an image of him. Bowser, right? Bowser. And what are some things you can say about Bowser compared to Mario? Is Bowser the same size as Mario? No. Bowser is much larger, right? Bowser, even in all the video games, Bowser was always larger than Mario. So, I mean, he's just like... I'm just drawing a really quick Bowser here. He's got the fiery... You know, he's big. He's big compared to Mario, and he's got the big spikes. Just to show you his size compared to Mario. You know, Mario, he's always what? He's always happy, and he's always running around. He's really fast, right? He's pretty fast. Now the opposite, Bowser is big, and he's slower than Mario, and he's not always happy, is he? He's always angry. So what do we have here? We have the opposites, right? Opposites. So when you're creating characters, when you're creating heroes and villains, it's always good to think about opposites, because that's how these characters play well off each other, is by using the opposite of the character. Think about characters in comics. Let's go with Batman. All right, Batman is... Let's describe Batman. What would you describe Batman to be? He's dark, right? He's always gritty, right? He's a thinker, though, too. He's a thinker. His colors, even in his costume, could be gray and dark blue or black, right? Now, who's his villain? Who is Batman's number one villain? The arch nemesis. Joker. And so now, think about Joker. Is Joker dark? He's bright, right? He's bright and mad and crazy. And while Batman might be more of a thinker, Joker, I don't know if he just, a lot of times he doesn't think at all. He's just crazy in all his actions that he does. And he wears the bright colors. He wears like the purple and the green and orange. So that's where you have it. He's always laughing. And yet he's bad and Batman's good, right? And so these are the opposites, okay? So now you have your character that you drew, and I want you to come up with the opposite. Okay, so here he is. Here is the skunk. So I can go with a few things that I can think about. And now, when we're coming up with opposites, you can refer to your list if you want to, but you don't need to. You can get it from the characteristics of your character that you have. Okay, so for me, I know I have a skunk here, and he's a skydiver, and he likes ice cream. All right, so a few things I know is that a skunk smells, so that's something I can work with. And he's in the sky. Wow, I really gave myself a tough one here. All right, so this is what your next challenge. As artists, it's always good to challenge ourselves. I always like doing that. It's not fun to draw the same thing over and over again. It's fun to draw something new, right? And so let's see. You guys and gals take a look at the art that you created and start thinking about who would be the enemy of this character. Maybe you already drew the villain in your story. Who knows? I don't, I can't see the ones that you created, but maybe you drew someone that's evil or bad, and now you're creating the good guy. So whatever it may be, I want you to think about what the opposite is of that character and draw that character, okay? So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to stare at a blank piece of paper for a little bit. Maybe I'll put him down here just so I can study him while I think of the opposite of a skunk. Okay. All right. I hope you're having better luck than I am. This is a tough one for me. All right, I'm just going to go for it. Sometimes, you got to go with your first idea. For some reason, I'm thinking a bird. I don't know why. I'm guessing because this skunk here is a skydiver, so eventually he's going to land. And maybe the opposite of that would be an animal that can stay in flight. All right, it's all coming together now. I may have drew him too big because now he's taking up the whole the whole page. But maybe that's part of it. Interesting. interesting ideas I'm having now. This is also something that I love about comics. Is in comics, you can create whatever you want. And so what I'm doing is I'm creating this eagle guy. And I don't know why, but he has a harness that he wears with robotic arms. He's got these dials here. I don't know who sets it. He's got a screen or something on his chest. So maybe some mad scientist created this guy. Feathers. Alright, it's all coming together. This is how it happens. It happens sometimes on the drawing page, right? So, okay, maybe he swoops out of the sky and it all comes back to that ice cream. Okay, maybe, just maybe now, hear me out, we have this crazy eagle character. Alright, or maybe he's really serious, I should say, because this guy looks like he's a bit zany and funny as he flies in the air and the wind's blowing against his face, his cheeks are blowing like that in the sky. And, you know, skunk is stinky, sometimes they're looked upon to be dirty, or, you know, people always run away from it. So I thought opposite of that would be something regal and something majestic. And so that's what made me think of an eagle. The also thing that made me think to do an eagle is, I mean, you always see an eagle just flying with such ease and such grace, right? But yet a skydiver is just falling from the sky, right? So that's what made me think, okay, let's do this eagle. So that's the idea I came up with at first. Then I added these weird robotic arms. Didn't really know why, but as I was drawing it, I thought, okay, this eagle works for a competing ice cream company. And so while this skydiving skunk is trying the ice cream, maybe this eagle swoops in and grabs the ice cream and steals the recipe. Could be that. I don't know. But I tell you what, I sure had fun drawing these characters, right? So now, how did your characters come out? Did you find it hard to come up with the opposite? Did you find it hard to come up with the opposite character for the first one that you drew, or did it become easy? As you saw, for me, it was tough at first. I was staring at the blank page, but I think it's good to see the method of the madness that goes into creating some of these characters. So it took me a while. You know, sometimes I just let things bubble in my mind as I'm coming up with characters and I'm coming up with new ideas. Sometimes it's good to just doodle and just you know, put some lines on paper and see what happens. And that's what happened here. Is now I came up with almost a story. Will I do anything with this? Probably not, but it was a fun experiment to do. right? I hope you enjoyed it as well.
I would love to see the artwork that you created today. Please email me your heroes and villains to mypalmark@aol.com. And now here's more.
I do a lot of school visits and a lot of library visits, and there are some questions that I always get asked, and I'll answer some of those now. I'll go through those as I do at some of the other visits that I've done. And one question is, where do your ideas come from? Where do your ideas come from? You saw a little bit right here is ideas can come from just morph over time from other ideas, and they can grow and change. But let's say for Ewing, What Are You Doing? The idea for this book came from my son playing. At the time, I think he was maybe 2 or 3, and he always had a farm set that we always played with, a little toy farm set. And he had a little sheep named Ewing, and I actually have it here, and a little cow named Moolah, which I still have. And so he would carry these little animals around wherever he went, and Ewing, he would always carry Ewing everywhere. And so one day we were putting him in the car, and he fell out of my son's hand, Gavin's hand, and he fell onto the driveway. And I just looked down and I said, "Ewing, what are you doing?" And then, bing, light just went off in my head. And we continued to play with Gavin, my wife Megan and I, and we would come up with all these different scenarios where that Ewing was doing these silly things. And that's where the idea came from, and it just grew from there. And I think it's a fun thing to have ideas come from play, because it really just brings out fun stories, and this was definitely a fun book to create, and it all came from just playing. Same thing happened with Far Out Firehouse. Far Out Firehouse is actually stories that myself and Gavin, my son, at the time he was 4 years old, and my wife, that we would just be playing with his play set of a firehouse, and we started calling it the Far Out Firehouse, because the adventures they'd be going on would be just so far out and so wild. And it got to the point where I was like, wow, I really could just start writing some of these ideas down. And so we'd be playing, and all of a sudden the bed started walking out of the house, and the firefighters slept in this bunk bed, and they would be walking out of the house. And next thing you know, the dog is barking and chasing after them, and boom, we had a story. And a lot of these lines that are even said or in the book come from actual playtime with Gavin. And so it was a bunch of different stories that we would have. And so as a cartoonist and as an author, I took it upon myself to then put these stories into an order that actually made one main story for the entire book. So that was part of that. That's how Far Out Firehouse was made, and that's how a lot of ideas are born. Another thing I would suggest is read a lot. The more you read, the more ideas you're gonna have, and it's okay to let your own ideas come from other ideas. Like I said, Ninja Turtles was a big influence on me as a child and as a young artist. I used to draw the Ninja Turtles, and then I would draw my own characters. One of my first characters I drew was called Frog the City Samurai, which is very similar to Ninja Turtles, an amphibian that was fighting crime in the city, and he was a samurai, the turtles were ninjas, so it's very similar. But by drawing that, I started creating my own stories and creating my own characters in that universe. And so it's always good to do that. Another project I have is called Happy Lou, and that was actually born from playing video games, from playing an early Animal Crossing game. The original Animal Crossing inspired Happy Lou and all the characters that I create. So You guys are awesome already. You're already involved with the library by watching this fun event, Fairlawn Library Heroes versus Villains. So you have access to a ton of great books. They have a fantastic kids graphic novels section for the older readers watching. They have a fantastic graphic novel section. I highly recommend. My buddy who runs Eastside Mags, he can definitely recommend a lot of fun comics for you. I can see if maybe I can send a list along to librarians there at Fairlawn, but I know they know comics so well, and so I highly recommend that you read comics and that you copy. It's okay to copy. If you're a young artist, you're just starting out, copy some of the art that you like. Because you're only going to grow and you're going to get better, and you're going to get your own style by just enjoying other people's style, and read books, and as you read it, think about what you like about the book, think about what you don't like about the book, and take note of that, because that's what's really helped me grow as an artist, is taking note of things that are fun and things that are like, all right, this story's a little boring here. I just feel the pacing is too slow. These are things that I'm thinking about as I'm reading the book. Another question that always gets asked is, how long did this book take you to create? And that changes from book to book. It depends on I guess the product. Puddleton Farm, this is the quickest book I ever turned around. This one took me about 1 month, believe it or not. This was a 1 month book. It's sort of a setup and a punchline kind of book, so it's a lot of 2-page spreads. So that's what helps in the creation of it. So that's what would help make it a quick book to create. Then there's other books like Claire Lost Her Bear at the World's Fair. This one took, I would say, a couple of years to create, because it went from idea to script to penciling into final art. So that took me longer to create this book. So like I said, it could take years. This one here, Far Out Firehouse, I'd say this one took me about 6 months, so a half a year to maybe 8 months or so. So, and it's the whole thing is you gotta enjoy what you're doing, right? So now here we go. I'll give you a little demonstration on how comics are created. Okay, so first things that happen is that the comic is first thought of, like I told you, and it starts with an idea, I should say. So we'll use Puddleton Farm again as an example. This book of Ewing, What Are You Doing? It all came from the idea, so I sketched out some drawings of Ewing on how he should look. I use Post-its a lot when I come up with ideas, so maybe I had a few Post-its, wrote down some ideas in a sketchbook on how I think what could happen in the book. I knew it was going to be about him using his imagination, and I wanted to promote pretend play. I wanted to get kids pretending and using their imagination. And so I knew that was some of the focus of the book. From there, it goes to the script stage. And here, I actually use my iPad when I'm doing a lot of the scripting now. And so I would type up the script. I have a proofreader, an editor, my wife, and also an editor that I work with, looks over the script. Sometimes we can come back and I would do another script, another version of it. Sometimes another version and another and another and another. Several drafts could happen when you're at the script stage. From there, it goes to pencils. Traditionally, pencils are done using a blue pencil or a red pencil, or might be a colored pencil. And I'll get back to that, the reason why, in a little bit. So at the pencil stage, you go and you read the script and then do the pencils. And then from there, you go on top of it and you use ink. And for the Puddleton Farm book, I used a lot of inking was done all using microns. Microns are pens used for calligraphy or also drawing manga or comics. Once the inking stage is done, then it gets scanned into the computer, and this is where the blue pencil comes in handy, because when you scan the art, all that shows up is the black line work and not the blue pencils. And that's why the blue pencil is used, or a red pencil or any other colored pencils, because the color drops out and just the black line comes through. From here, it's added into a photo editing software. I use Photoshop when I'm adding color. And so I would add color, and then I would add any extra things, such as the text would be done in Photoshop as well. And that's how Puddleton Farm was made. Now, when I worked on Far Out Firehouse, Far Out Firehouse was the first book that I created using the iPad Pro. So while I was so used to doing everything traditionally, I actually moved on to doing things digitally. And as an artist, I didn't think I would ever do that. But here I got an excellent program. It's called Procreate, and a different digital art pack where I can download all these different pens that changes up your artwork. And so that's how I created. Let me just see. I'll just pull up one of the pages. Here's all the pages of Far Out Firehouse. And so that's how that was created. And there you go. But I still use the same method, where I still use pencils, and then an ink layer, and then a color layer. But even the pencils are all done on the digital. And that's the one thing I do love about it now, is that I can actually undo. So sometimes when I was working with pencil, what was happening, traditional pencil, I'd be making such a mess of the page because I'm making so many mistakes that the pencils just look like a mess, and it's hard to ink if you can't see all the lines. And so the good thing about doing it digitally is that I was able to just, tap with 2 fingers and you just undo any mistake that you made. But as an artist talking to young artists, the one thing I would say is it's okay to make mistakes. Every mistake makes you a better artist. Okay? Don't get frustrated. I mean, yes, get frustrated. It's fine to be frustrated. If something's really bothering you, put it to the side, work on something else, come back to it later. Sometimes it's good to just tackle something with a fresh mind. But, I think any artist or any professional talking to a young professional would always say the same thing, as in, never give up. Always continue to do your best, and always have fun with whatever art that you are creating, right? Because the more you do something, the better you're going to be at it. And then I can tell you that just from my books. I think every book I create is better quality than the one before, and I think that's a good thing, right? Yeah, so everything that you draw, you're just going to get better. So I want to thank you for joining me, and please send in your artwork to the Fairlawn Library so they can tag me and they can show me, they can send it my way. I would love to see your artwork and see the characters that you created. It's always just fun to admire a young artist's mind and see how they're creating it on the page. And you can follow me on Instagram or on Facebook. I'm at mypalmark. And you can check out all my stuff at marianobros.com. So again, thank you for having me, and enjoy the rest of the day here at the Fairlawn Library, Heroes versus Villains. And enjoy your library. Enjoy it. Take out books and just devour them. All right. It's been fun. Have a great day. Take care, everybody. Goodbye.